The answer may surprise you. For millennia, one group of people has been targeted, blamed, expelled, rejected, beaten, enslaved, and murdered simply for what religion they practice. This insidious, venomous hatred is anti-Semitism. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Much of it has come from within Christianity itself. Exactly where did anti-Semitism start? It's built on a broken foundation of lies, as stated below, and for which there is no basis. Some of it came from fear. Part of it came from groundless conspiracy theories, but perhaps the most damaging seeds of antipathy grew from a misunderstanding of Jesus, why he sacrificed himself on the cross. If we really understand the Bible, and if we really understand why Jesus came here, anti-Semitism would never have taken root in the Christian community. Simply stated, anti-Semitism is irrational and seemingly unextinguishable. A burning hatred of Jews and their homeland Israel. In one of Jesus' greatest commandments, which appears in Matthew chapter 22, verses 37 to 39, he said, "I love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. The second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself." Anti-Semitism begins largely with Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection. A story about which Jews have been deceived by the devil and by the chief priests in the Sanhedrin. The chief priests asked temple guards and Roman soldiers to keep guard over Jesus' tomb so his followers could not remove his body and then claim he rose from the dead. But they fell asleep when Jesus' body miraculously disappeared. When informed of this, Jewish leaders paid the guards, told them not to tell anyone their story, and to leave the country forthwith. That has been the belief for Jews even today. During the Middle Ages, Jews were accused of horrifying crimes that they never committed. But the loathing really burst forth during the 1800s. That's when it became a very serious matter, with accusers believing that Jews were somehow dangerous. While such beliefs evolving in a well of toxic muck were bad enough, what came next were horrendous acts against Jews. In the 20th century, the world gasped in horror at the story of the Holocaust. In total, 6 million Jews were murdered, and with them, many other people, including Christians. This didn't happen because of anything Jews did, but rather simply because of who they were and what they believed. It was Hitler's final solution. Thus, one of the core questions fueling this contempt is who was responsible for Jesus' death. For centuries after his crucifixion, the belief was that the Jews killed Jesus. Others claimed that the Romans killed him. That has poured gas on the hatred, persecution, and violence impacting innocent Jews ever since. But here's the truth. That belief and narrative are both false and unbiblical. Let's be clear. Jesus Christ was born a Jew, lived as a Jew, and died a Jew. He was circumcised, and he fulfilled Jewish law, worshipped in synagogues, and taught from the Hebrew Scriptures. How and why then did people claiming to follow him turn against the people sharing Jesus and their own heritage? The answer to who killed Jesus is in the Bible. Members of the Sanhedrin were the ruling religious leaders during Jesus' time. They objected to his claim to be able to forgive sins and his statement that he was the Messiah. So, Jewish leaders decided he had to go and held his trial in a kangaroo court in which witnesses could not agree. The chief priest convicted him anyway, and the Romans released a prisoner each year. On the day of Jesus' crucifixion, Pontius Pilate offered them Jesus, or Barabbas, a robber and murderer. The high priests stirred up the crowd to demand that Jesus be crucified, despite Roman Governor Pontius Pilate finding no fault in him and pleading for his release. They chose the release of Barabbas instead. As the Jewish calls for crucifixion grew louder, Pilate feared an uprising, so he ordered Jesus to be scourged and crucified. So, were the Jews and Romans then responsible for his death? The Bible tells us the astonishing truth about who was really accountable. The answer may shock you. Those truly responsible are all of mankind due to our sins. Paul, originally Saul of Tarsus, a high-ranking Jew who persecuted Christians, became an apostle after encountering Jesus on the road to Damascus. He writes in Romans chapter 3, verse 23, that all have sinned. Despite this truth, anti-Semitism still exists among Christians, especially on college campuses, who have believed the current-day lies. Belief in propaganda can be addictive, not something someone easily stops believing, even if proven wrong by the Bible. Sadly, Studies indicate that about 24% of Christians globally hold anti-Semitic views. Common stereotypes include Jews have control of money, they have too much power, and they are more patriotic to Israel than the countries in which they live. Such beliefs aren't just wrong, they're dangerous. Worse, they contradict the gospel. The New Testament mentions nothing within its pages that provide legitimacy for hating Jews or anyone else. Jesus himself said, "Salvation is from the Jews," and Paul teaches us that God has a plan for the Jewish people. But, unfortunately, the loathing of Jews keeps spreading like a societal cancer as it seeps into every generation. So here's the crux of the matter. For Christians, anti-Semitism is not only entirely unreasonable, it is sinful. If we reject Judaism, we sever the roots to our faith and our belief in the false propaganda. It means that we also hate God and Jesus. It is incumbent on us as Christians to reject anti-Semitism completely. We can supplant it with truth, understanding, and love. If you are challenged by this video, please check the Bible. Learn the truth, and subscribe, like, and share this video. And leave a comment below because more Christians and those wishing to become Christians need to hear this. Thanks for helping us out. God bless you, your family, and friends.